Okay, so now I want to talk to you about the squat. The squat is going to be one of the most important moves you perform in your strength development. The overhead press, the deadlift, the squat are all very important in your training and your strength development, but the squat specifically is probably the most neglected one. People very often underestimate how important it is for the development of your legs in the overarching theme of developing strength as a whole. So with that in mind, first you want to approach the bar being sure that the bar is roughly chest height. You want to make sure your feet are positioned with your heels shoulder width apart, with your toes pointed slightly outward, roughly about 45 degrees. Next, you want to bend underneath the bar, positioning the bar roughly across the upper part of your back. Not the neck, the back. This is important. This is the low bar position. As you fix yourself underneath the bar, make sure your stance is in the same position it was before you approached underneath the bar. Again, feet with the heels shoulder width apart, your toes slightly pointed out, roughly about a 45-degree angle. Now stand straight up, unracking the bar. Take 1 or 2 steps back. No more than that. You don't want to be too far from the hooks. Once you're standing straight up, again, position yourself, heels shoulder width apart, a little bit wider if you feel like that's more comfortable for you, toes slightly pointed out at a 45-degree angle. Now, once you're clear from the hooks, we're gonna start the descent. Okay, a couple things to keep in mind here. You have some cues you want to tell yourself. Okay, essentially essentially knees out, hips back, bend over. Now, what does this mean? Knees out means you want your knees as you are descending to track outward with your toes. Okay, hips back meaning sitting back and down as though you're getting ready to sit down in a chair. Bending over is what is going to help you actually get down to that bottom position. Okay. Now, with the bending over part, you see one of two things. Either people bend over too far for too long, or they don't bend over enough. From my experience, in the beginning when people were starting to squat, beginning to learn how to perform it properly, they don't typically have an issue with bending over too far. Usually it's not bending over enough. So it feels kind of awkward, and it's like I can't get down into the bottom. I don't feel like I'm able to break that 90-degree angle. And typically that's because they're not bending over too far, right? Or they're not keeping their knees out as they're bending over. So those are two things right there. Making sure your knees are staying out over your toes and that you're bending over far enough. Now, usually what happens is that as people begin to get more comfortable with the squat, then they begin to stay bent over for too long on their way up and shooting their hips up and causing themselves to kind of look more like they're doing a good morning rather than a squat. So, as you are beginning to learn how to squat properly, I would always err on the side of bending over more than what you think. Okay. Now, on our way up, you want to drive yourself up with the hips. So the hips are going to come up at the same time as the chest. This is another thing that throws people off, is they'll either shoot the chest up first, leaving the hips down for too long, and then they put too much of the weight on their knees, and that can cause them to get thrown off in their balance. Or they do the opposite and shoot their hips up too fast, keeping their chest down for too long, and that again throws them off, throwing the weight forward and causing them to fold over in the squat. especially as the weight starts to get too heavy. So again, this is a coordinated movement. Hips up, chest up, driving, leading with the hips, and bringing the chest up in a coordinated movement, not one before the other. Okay? Now, as you drive the hips up and the chest up, leading with the hips, we're bringing that chest up at the same time. You're going to stand straight up with your proud chest, again, to maintain that straight back. Relax, take a deep breath. Again, bring that chest up and proud again, and then begin to initiate the movement again. Now, with the squat, a couple things. Either you can have a training partner to watch you, or you can videotape yourself and begin to critique yourself if you don't have a training partner. Again, asking yourself the questions: are my toes out? Are my heels out over my toes? Am I bringing my hips back? Am I bending over far enough? Okay. And those are the things that you want to look for. Again, the squat is going to be one of those things that's going to have a lot of different areas that are going to be really easy to mess up. It's a basic movement in that it imitates sitting down into a chair, but the difference between sitting down in a chair and squatting is you have weight on your back that you're holding with your hands, and so that kind of complicates the movement a little bit, especially as that bar starts to get heavier. And so that's why you want to kind of keep these cues in mind as you're beginning to descend. And as I said, as you begin to ascend, remember, you're leading with the hips, bringing the chest up at the same time. Okay, that's it. Again, thank you. If you have any tips, any ideas, anything that's helped you out with the squat, you want to go ahead and throw it down in the comments below. That's something we can have a discussion about. Thank you very much. Remember, train hard, get to work, and lead your home. God bless you.